that you see before you. No, we are worshipping Brahman, the one absolute God, who is everywhere, pervades everything. But at the time of our worship of our idol, Brahman becomes concentrated inside of the idol. So we're worshipping God who is concentrated in the idol and not the idol itself. Just like you're worshipping the Kaaba. And we say, no, we're not worshipping the Kaaba, we're worshipping God. So no, it's the same thing. There you are bowing down to this black cube, and you insist that you're not worshipping it, but you're bowing down before it. Of course, there is a qualitative difference, right? There is a difference here. Because for those who worship these idols, believing that God is concentrated in the idol, if you take away the idol, can they worship? No. They have to have the idol. Whereas, if somebody takes away the Kaaba, can we still worship? Of course we can. In fact, you can go inside of the Kaaba and worship. It would be inconceivable for them to be climbing inside of their idols and worshiping. It doesn't work. That doesn't work. Okay? So there is a qualitative difference between what we're doing and what they're doing. Right? But, unfortunately, Muslims confuse this issue in the minds of these people. They confuse it. Why? By putting in their homes pictures of the Kaaba. Putting on their prayer rugs pictures of the Kaaba. So everywhere they go and they're going to pray, there is this image of the Kaaba. So to those externally who are looking at these things, it's just like we're worshipping the Kaaba. So it's wrong, really, to put pictures of the Kaaba on our prayer rugs, on our walls, on this. It's wrong. It's error. And it misguides people. Of course, there's another point that you should know, that many Hindus have this belief concerning our worship of the Kaaba. Not what I just said. There's another belief that they have. One Hindu from England, living in Toronto, I was flying to England, and he was sitting beside me, so we got in this conversation, and we became friendly. So he now felt he could ask me a question. He said, listen, I have this question that's been bothering me all my life, but I couldn't ask any Muslim. I had Muslim friends, but I felt shy to ask them this, But, I can see you are open-minded and, you're coming from a Western background, so do you mind if I ask you this question? I said, sure, go ahead. He said, growing up, my parents told me, and my brothers and sisters, that inside the Kaaba, you have one of our gods called Shiva Lingam. I started to laugh, of course, I said, he looked at me, smiled, he saw me laughing, and he said, yeah, that's what they told us, it was in there, and also in Medina, that's what you have there in that mosque of the Prophet, you got Shiva Lingam there too. Well, I explained to him that, of course, no, this is not true, we don't have any one of your idols inside of the Kaaba. You can go inside the Kaaba, it's open, there's nothing inside there. Anyway, so if you're giving da'wah to Hindus, just be aware of this, that a number of them have this idea, this concept that we have inside of the Kaaba one of their gods. And it's good for you actually when you're involved in this thing too. You should go and look up what Shiva Lingam stands for. You go up and look up what Lingam stands for and you'll be shocked. Right? Anyway, but it's good to know it because in the course of da'wah with them, it's good to clarify these points because sometimes they don't even realize it themselves. Anyway, what we're saying here is that this belief in God being everywhere is the basis of a number of these individuals who believe in idolatry. And it becomes the justification for Al-Hallaj, who we spoke about earlier, is from the 10th century, who claimed an al-Haq. He was a Sufi. He became what they call among the Sufi saints, who was put in the hierarchy of saints. And people will call on him Al-Hallaj. He was known for this famous statement, an al-Haq. When the Muslim judges brought him before them, and asked him to retract this statement because of its implications, he stood up in the court and he opened up his cloak and said, "There is nothing inside this cloak except Allah." So he removed from them any doubts about what he intended. At that point, the only thing left to do was to execute him. So they cut off his head. Of course, the Sufis in their books, they write that when his head was cut off and it hit the ground rolling, it kept on saying, "An al-haq, an al-haq, an al-haq." They said, okay, this is proof that what he was saying was right. He was killed, wrongly, etc., etc. Really, he was on the truth. Of course, for us, even though this story is probably apocryphal, not authentic, if we concede to them that it did happen, no problem. Because if we go to the case of Prophet Musa, when he went to the top of Mount Tur to receive revelation, and he left behind Harun and the people, and that individual, as Samiri, he asked the people to give them their jewelry. He got their jewelry together, he melted it all down, and he threw in the mix some dust, as he said, from the footprint of an angel, right? And from that he made the golden calf, and he called all the people around, and he said to them, "This is the God of Moses, the one who Moses is going on top of the mount to receive revelation from. This is the God, this golden calf." Now, do you think the people just said, "MashaAllah, let's worship it," and they just bowed down and started worshiping the calf? No. We're looking at this. Are you serious? Then what happened? The cow said, "Moo." That's what Allah says in the Quran. The cow lowed. It said, "Moo." People said, "Whoa, this is the God of Moses." They dropped down and bowed. When the cow communicated, right, this was what convinced the people that this was God. Now, how do we explain that? Did the cow actually low? No. We know that the jinn that can possess individuals as well as objects entered into the cow and said, "Moo." And the people thought it was the cow. Similarly, the jinn can go into the head chopped off of Hallaj and keep saying, "An al-haq, an al-haq, an al-haq." If that's what you need, they're there for you. Right? So we don't have a problem with that claim. Now, of course, we have other groups like the Druze. You hear about the Druze in Lebanon. Their belief also is that God became carnate, human, in the form of the last of the Fatimid rulers in Egypt, called Al-Hakim bi Amrillah. They believe that he became God in that person. The Ismaili Shiites, Aga Khanis, right, whose leader is Abdul Karim Aga Khan, they believe that their Imam is God incarnate. In fact, when one of the earlier Imams of theirs, the one who was weighed and given his body weight in gold, in platinum, and in diamonds by his followers, when he was asked in Egypt, because they were based in Egypt, when he was asked, "Why do you allow your people to worship you?" he said, "In my country, people worship a cow." He's from India. "Surely I am better than a cow.